The solution proposed in these pages, it asks you to do the absolute opposite of what your brain instinctively screams at you to do in the middle of a conflict.
Right, it totally flips the script.
It completely subverts our standard operating procedures for handling difficult behavior. But to get there, the author argues, we first have to shine a light on the invisible machinery that's actually generating all of this exhaustion.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the source material gives this machinery a very specific name.
Right, the DEM.
Yes, the DEM, which stands for Demon, Ego, Mind. And the author notes it doesn't really matter which of those three words you prefer. The function is identical.
Yeah, the label isn't the point.
Exactly. The DEM's entire purpose, like its full-time job, is to manufacture suffering in the name of maintaining control. It is obsessed with keeping us safe and desperately needs everything to, quote, make sense.
And that demand for things to make sense is, well, it's the ultimate trap.
How so?
Think about it. When someone cuts you off in traffic or, a coworker throws you under the bus in a meeting, it doesn't make sense to your sense of justice.
Right. It feels totally unfair.
Exactly. So the DEM feels profoundly threatened by that lack of order. It instantly floods your system and forces you into classic biological survival responses.
Fight, flight, or fawn.
You got it. You want to verbally strike back, or you want to quit your job and run away, or you frantically try to appease them so they'll just stop being difficult.
And the document points out that if we just let the DEM run the show unchecked, we drop straight into this exhausting psychological game called Cartman's drama triangle.
Oh, the drama triangle, yes.
Yeah, we start aggressively casting everyone in our lives into these rigid roles. Suddenly, that annoying coworker is the persecutor, and we are the helpless victim.
Or we try to play the rescuer.
Right, swooping in to fix someone else's mess just so we can feel a sense of control over the chaos.
And the cruel irony of the drama triangle is that the roles constantly flip.
They never stay static.
Never. You start out as the victim, but then you get resentful, so you become the persecutor by lashing out.
Which forces the other person right into the victim role.
Exactly. It's an entirely enclosed loop of mental machinations. Your mind is just grinding its gears, burning calories, trying to manipulate an uncomfortable reality into going away.
It evolved to protect us, right? It feels to me like the DEM is basically an overzealous bodyguard.
That's a really good way to put it.
Right. Picture being at a crowded bar. Someone across the room gives you a slightly weird look. Your bodyguard immediately shatters a beer bottle on the counter and starts a massive brawl just to keep you safe.
Just burning the whole place down.
Yeah. The original intention was protection, but the actual result is total chaos and destruction.
Well, what's fascinating here is that the author's framework actually agrees with your premise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the text specifically states, this isn't being critical of the DEM. The DEM is just doing what it was made to do.
Oh, so it's not the enemy.
It's a survival mechanism.
Yeah.
The real issue isn't that the DEM is inherently evil. The issue is that its core strategy for protection is an absolute illusion.
An illusion of control.
Exactly. The DEM whispers to you that if you just maneuver the situation perfectly, if you spend 3 hours composing the ultimate bulletproof text message rebuttal,
We've all been there.
right, or if you meticulously plot out how to avoid someone in the hallway, it tells you that you can fix the problem.
It hijacks that desire to be right.
It does. It hijacks your natural, very human desire to feel justified. But attempting to control other people's actions or their opinions of you is a black hole. It will consume all your energy and give nothing back.
Which means we need a way out of the black hole. And the source material maps this out in a flowchart.
A very simple flowchart, actually.
Yeah, just squares and circles. The DEM is what drives the squares. Inside these squares, you find things labeled thoughts that complain about other people, and complaints, aspirations, and concerns.
Basically, the enclosed loop we were just talking about.
Exactly. The trap.
The mind loves living in those squares. It feels really productive to complain.
So productive. But the flowchart shows a single arrow pointing away from the squares, leading out toward the circles.
Right.
And the circles offer two distinct radical directives. One is, I am handing it over to God, and the other is, pray for their happiness.
Which is a huge pivot.
Massive pivot. And here's where it gets really interesting, because the mechanism the author is describing here is almost like mental judo.
Mental judo. I like that.
Yeah, you aren't trying to fight your own negative thoughts. You aren't trying to forcefully suppress your frustration or, pretend you aren't annoyed.
You're using the momentum.
Exactly. You are using the momentum of that complaining thought as a trigger. The moment someone frustrates you, the moment the Dems start screaming, you use that exact energy to quietly, internally wish them well.
You ask for them to have joy, peace, and love.
Right. Joy, peace, and love. The author abbreviates this as JPL.
We really need to pause and emphasize a very specific detail from the text regarding this step, though.
What's that?
This wish, this internal prayer for joy, peace, and love, is strictly for them.
Okay, so it's not about us.
No, it is not a covert manipulation tactic disguised as spirituality. You aren't wishing them peace so that they will calm down and start treating you better.
Oh, wow. That's a big distinction.
The author states plainly, ideally, not for your benefit, you are entirely relinquishing the management of the situation.
Now, I know what you might be thinking listening to this. What if you aren't religious?
Right, that's a common hurdle.
Yeah, what if the word God or prayer makes you instantly roll your eyes or it brings up a lot of baggage?
The author addresses this head on, actually.
He does. He mentions he was a massive skeptic himself. He notes that if you are an atheist, an agnostic, or just, spiritually exhausted, you do not have to abandon your intellect to use this flowchart.
You don't have to become someone you're not.
Exactly. You simply have to act as if a higher power is real.
He likens it to a tiny drop of faith.
A tiny drop of faith that replaces your obsessive need to manage the outcome. Does internally wishing your enemies well just turn you into a passive doormat while people walk all over you?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of how the mind operates, the answer is definitively no. You do not become a doormat.
Okay, that's a relief.
The Dem absolutely hates this practice. The text explicitly says the last thing that the Dem wants you to do is to pray for a person you don't like to have joy, peace, and love.
Why does it hate it so much?
Because the mind's rigid loop of control cannot physically share the same cognitive space as a genuine wish for someone else's well-being. It literally jams the gears.
It snaps the loop.
It snaps the loop's momentum in half. You aren't necessarily solving the external problem. The person might still be super annoying, but you are immediately dropping your own internal struggle.
And the author shares a really visceral, deeply relatable, personal anecdote to illustrate this difference between surrendering and being a doormat. The line between being nice and being kind.
Which is such an important distinction.
The negative thought about the difficult person becomes the cue to wish them joy, peace, and love.
Transitioning from wanting to slam a door in someone's face to genuinely wishing them joy is incredibly messy, though.
Oh, I bet.
Human nature doesn't just flip a switch from pure rage to pure enlightenment. And the source acknowledges this friction beautifully by introducing what he calls the holier-than-thou mid-step.
I found this part so surprising.
It's very counterintuitive.
It is. The author admits that when you first start praying for someone who is actively being mean to you, you are probably going to start feeling superior to them.
It's almost guaranteed.
You sit in your room thinking, look at me, I'm so evolved, I have so much spiritual compassion for this terrible, unenlightened person.
Right, feeding the ego a little bit.
Yeah, and instead of condemning that, the source says this is actually a highly useful ego trick at the beginning.
It is functionally necessary because it bypasses your immediate defensiveness.
How does that work?
Well, when you feel a sense of superiority, your ego gets a little hit of dopamine. It feels temporarily satisfied and secure.
Okay.
Because you feel secure, you finally feel safe enough to put your weapons down. You stop reacting with your usual fight or flight habits. You stop plotting the passive-aggressive email. You stop slamming the doors.
That's a buffer.
Yes. That temporary buffer of safety actually allows your nervous system to calm down enough to look at the other person objectively. You might even begin to see their point of view and recognize how they might actually be justified in their complaints about you, even if their delivery was atrocious.
But wait, if we're relying on an ego trick to feel superior, aren't we just feeding the monster we're trying to starve?
That's the danger, yes.
Isn't this just the Dem finding a sneakier, more sophisticated way to stay in control and feel right?
This raises an important question, and it captures exactly why the author warns that this holier-than-thou attitude must eventually be, and I quote directly here, dropped like a hot potato.
Drop like a hot potato.
It is a bridge over a river, not the land you build your house on. The psychological brilliance of the mid-step is that it weans your mind off its severe addiction to active, aggressive defense mechanisms.
Ah, so it's a transition phase.
Think of it like using a nicotine patch to quit smoking. You are still feeding the system a tiny bit of the drug, in this case, a little bit of ego superiority, just to prevent a total withdrawal meltdown.
That makes a lot of sense.
But the ultimate goal of this system is genuine, profound humility, not spiritual arrogance. This is where things get really expansive.
Yeah, this brings us to the second, much larger diagram in the document, which introduces a cosmic framework called astrosynthesis.
The document takes a massive leap here into a profound philosophical critique of modern culture.
It really goes for it.
It does. It specifically targets the current cultural obsession with intention setting or manifesting.
Oh, manifesting is everywhere right now.
Everywhere. You know, the popular idea that if you just visualize your goals hard enough, you can bend the universe to your will and dictate the exact trajectory of your life.
Right, vision boards and all that.
The author labels this as a wildly arrogant assumption made by the limited human ego. It presumes that our tiny, localized ego actually knows what is best for our ultimate spiritual growth. It's an ancient framework.
It is. The author overlays his own system onto this map. On the right side, representing our forward momentum, he introduces the acronym PAD, which is Purpose, Agenda, Direction.
PAD.
Okay. And this is linked to the energetic momentum of planets like Uranus, Jupiter, Venus, and Mars. This entire side of the map represents us actively trying to manifest our desires and push our agenda into the world.
Forward momentum, however, always eventually meets resistance.
Inevitably.
You cannot push an agenda forever without hitting a wall. In this cosmic map, that resistance is located at the Saturn node.
The Saturn node.
Saturn represents karma, the ultimate reality check. It brings LA, which stands for limits, avoidance, and boundaries.
Delay, so we have pay hitting all there.
Exactly. The text makes a vital distinction here. In modern manifesting culture, a roadblock is seen as an enemy to be smashed through.
Right, just try harder.
But here, Saturn is viewed as a necessary, immovable tutor. When our purpose, agenda, and direction slams into the lab of Saturn, our forward momentum completely stops.
So what does this all mean for us in practical terms? Let me try a modern analogy here.
Go for it.
Intention setting is a lot like programming a GPS with your ideal destination. You punch in tropical beach resort and hit go.
Sounds great so far.
But the ego arrogantly refuses to acknowledge the actual physical roads, the speed limits, the massive traffic jams, or the washed-out bridges required to get there.
It just wants a straight line.
Right. Saturn is the washed-out bridge. It's reality standing in your way saying, no, you cannot go this way.
The immovable object.
And the text points out that when we hit that roadblock, when we are stuck in Saturn, miserably judging other people for ruining our plans, we're supposed to use the flowchart.
Back to the flowchart.
Yes. The author even references the biblical parable in Matthew 13 about the wheat and the weeds here, reminding us that it isn't our job to judge who is good or bad or what obstacles shouldn't be there. Our only job when we hit the Saturn roadblock is to surrender. We turn to God.
The flowchart is the vehicle we use to navigate the crushing weight of Saturn.
It gets us through the roadblock.
And when we finally stop fighting reality, when we truly surrender, we move across the map to the next node, which is Chiron.
Chiron.
The source describes the Chiron stage as the profound admission of complete helplessness. To illustrate just how deep and agonizing this helplessness feels, the author points to the archetype of Christ on the cross, a historical and cultural symbol of surrendering the ego's desperate demand for control. It is the agonizing moment where you finally accept that you cannot manipulate the outcome to save yourself.
That is a staggering comparison. It reframes the entire concept of personal growth.
How so?
It suggests that true, lasting wisdom doesn't come from successfully manifesting what you want. It comes from the depth of your pain and the total collapse of your self-assuredness.
The collapse of the ego's plans.
Exactly. It's the moment you acknowledge how finite and small you actually are, which finally allows you to stop battling the reality of what is unfolding right in front of you.
And passing through that agonizing surrender at Chiron paves the way to the final destination on the cosmic map.
Which is?
Pluto. In this system of astrosynthesis, Pluto represents the literal death of the ego.
What does that actually feel like, though, to reach ego death in this framework?
The text explains that when the ego is effectively dismantled at Pluto, the internal landscape completely changes. You no longer have any burning desire to set intentions.
The GPS is turned off.
Totally off. You don't have a pad, a purpose, agenda, or direction of your own anymore. Because your ego has died, your only remaining desire is to somehow discern a higher will, whatever that may be, so you can carry it out.
You become a vessel.
You become a pure instrument, completely free from the exhaustion of constantly trying to bend the world to your preferences.
It is an incredible, challenging journey we've tracked today.
It's a lot to process.
It is. We started this deep dive looking at the highly relatable, exhausting, controlling loop of the Dem and how it traps us in the endless role-playing of the Cartman drama triangle.
With the rescuers, victims, and persecutors.
Right. Then we uncovered a highly practical escape hatch, using our negative thoughts as mere signals to actively wish difficult people joy, peace, and love. Handing the management of the situation over, even if we just act as if it works.
And we followed how that practice, even if it requires pushing through the messy, holier-than-thou ego trick at first, ultimately aligns with a massive cosmic map of surrender.
The tree of life.
Yes. We trace a path from the arrogant intention setting of Pad, crashing into the hard, immovable boundaries of Saturn, sinking into the absolute helplessness of Chiron, and finally arriving at the liberation of ego death at Pluto.
It completely reframes every conflict we have.
It does. And I want to leave you with one final lingering thought that builds directly on this concept of Pluto and the ultimate death of the ego.
Let's hear it.
If the final goal of this entire cosmic architecture is the total dismantling of your need for control, what if the very things you're complaining about right now?
The daily annoyances.
Yeah, the specific people driving you crazy today, the passive-aggressive housemates, the micromanaging coworkers, the family members who never listen. What if they aren't just random, unfortunate annoyances?
What are they then?
What if they are perfectly custom-designed instruments deployed by the universe, specifically meant to force you to finally drop your ego?
That is a wild perspective shift.
It changes everything.
It implies that the difficult person across from you isn't actually ruining your chess game at all. They are just the universe stepping in, flipping the board over, and showing you that you never actually needed to play the game in the first place.